Hello readers, so today I figured I'd do an interesting new type of video content, and it's book recommendations for INFJs. And of course I chose INFJs as the MBTI type because I am an INFJ. I know that we're one of the more rare types, but there are still a lot of people that are INFJ in the grand scheme of things, so I figured why not recommend some books that I could feel myself like really loving and relating to as an INFJ, and I think that others will also agree or find new books that they can relate to as well, because we are very introverted and very intuitive. So the INFJ is the advocate type, and it's riddled with judgment, it's riddled with introspection, so being intuitive, being feeling, and being introverted. And I genuinely don't think that you can be an INFJ without being a big-time, full-time reader. That's just my experience. Everyone that I've ever met that is INFJ or identifies as INFJ, literally all readers, and I love it because if you're an INFJ and you're watching this videos, automatically we are best friends and we can read in silence somewhere together, especially if you're in Canada, okay? Because that's just like our way of communicating and feeling good and showing love, just to be able to like read a book around someone else that also likes reading without having to like always interact. Anyways, I'm rambling. I also wrote a list of traits that are also related to INFJ, and some of them are quiet, mystical, idealist, solitude, alone, contentment, reflection, isolation, sensitive, justice-oriented, questions of right and wrong, standing for people and for the truth. And basically INFJ, we're just very much everything everywhere all at once, just watching and making conclusions and drawing inspiration, inspiring others, even with that quiet, calm presence that we have. And we are very much calm and quiet until we need to stand up, and then when we do stand up, we actually do command a lot of respect and a lot of attention from people. So I feel like INFJ are amazing and great people overall, and I think that morality, spirituality, philosophy, and psychology are at the root of our personality and the way that we see and lens through life, and that's why literature also pleases us very much so, because we get to see different aspects of those same thematics and those same subjects and branches of life. So having said that, this is how I curated this list of books. So we have fiction, non-fiction. We don't have that many books in this book recommendation because I really wanted to be super intentional. I really recommend like my top and things that really like scream to me, oh my god, this main character must be INFJ as hell, because I relate to the point where it's scary. So yeah, without further ado, now let's start the book recommendations. First things first, I want to recommend Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky, but more specifically I want to recommend Dostoevsky in general. Dostoevsky is really a great author, and he combines all the things that I mentioned at the beginning: mysticism, isolation, spirituality, being part of a society while not being part of it, being that critical thinker, that advocate of society, and also morality, what's right, what's wrong. Especially if you read Brothers Karamazov, that's actually the one I wanted to recommend, not Crime and Punishment, but I just couldn't find my copy in that pile of books. So really recommend highly Brothers Karamazov and then working through his other books. But yes, I feel like Dostoevsky might have been an INFJ, or if not knew a lot of INFJ back in his day, because I think a lot of his characters really like share that similar wave of thought and feeling through life. So definitely recommend Dostoevsky if you haven't read Dostoevsky, and if you're an INFJ, you're going to love Dostoevsky. Actually, now that I'm thinking of it, another person that really loves Dostoevsky, and I made a video about this like a few months ago, or like when I first started this channel, is Timothée Chalamet. So now I'm starting to think, is Timothée Chalamet also INFJ? Because he loves Dostoevsky, like he recommended all of his books. So now it has me thinking. I feel like if someone says they love Dostoevsky or they've read Dostoevsky, I'm more inclined to build a connection with them, if that makes sense, and I'm more inclined to believe that they will see kind of how I see the world And anyways, there's just so much to unpack. That's the other thing with INFJ. We're not lazy. We love having big books. We love having challenging books. We love to unpack things. We love to discover new things. And we're very, you know, kind of spiritual, like not 100% religious all the time, but we could be more like spiritual and more like we want to do what's right at all times, or we want to at least feel that we've done the rightest thing. So we've done the thing that's more morally aligned, okay? And we don't want to go against our values and morals, and you know, even if we do, then we have immense remorse and guilt and we want to go back. Anyways, although like we're very morality driven, we also do have like downsides where we can be like super judgmental, super black and white and stuff. So I think if you love that, you'll definitely love Dostoevsky. Second book that I had to recommend is Into the Wild by Jon Krakauer. This book is amazing. This is one of my favorite books of all time, and the movie is one of my favorites of all time. It's basically Jon Krakauer retelling the story or the end of someone's life. So Christopher McCandless, a young man at the beginning of the 21st century that basically set out to go to Alaska. He basically just left civilization, had a few books with him, and you know, met people on his way to wherever he was seeking. And you know, there's just that trend of like getting out of society to see things for yourself, to experience things for yourself. And the other thing is Chris, the actual person, because that's his biography that's being written here. He really was a feeling type of person. He really, like, you know, from the correspondence that we read between him and the people that he met, and you know, later on Jon Krakauer's interview of these people, that this was a man that had big influence, you know, the quiet type, but also the very reflective and idealist type. And I think this also depicts how beautiful but also harmful idealism can be, right? Because when you're very strong and convicted in your convictions, you know, it could lead to big risk, and they could be good and bad, and they can transform other people's lives, and you know, they can transform your life, but it also can end in tragedy, right? So highly recommend this book. This is a very profound book. This is a very transformative read. I don't go a year without thinking about this book, and I think I want to reread it very soon. But definitely read Into the Wild. I think like if you're an INFJ, this is the book for you. This is the book where you will feel seen, you will understand. A lot of people are very critical. A lot of people are like, well, this guy is an idiot, why would you do that, why would you blah blah blah. But I think if you're an INFJ, you will understand at the root that feeling that Chris McCandless has at, you know, going beyond society and the conventions of money and the conventions of always faking to be a certain thing that you're not, and really going towards things that emulate love and emulate nature. Anyways, highly recommend this one. The next book I wanna recommend is a classic book, and actually it's the first time I finally started reading it, and it's Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. And honestly, I can't believe I never picked this one up, because Jane Eyre is so relatable. Like, she is very relatable. She is very canonically an INFJ character, and if I did some researching online and other people have confirmed this, so very charismatic, very relatable. I feel like her upbringing can be very similar to other INFJ, where you're just very much questioning if the adults and the people around you are in the right or in the wrong, and feeling like you're an outsider and trying to fit in, but also understanding, you know, where your limitations are, right? So Jane Eyre had a hard upbringing, and then she goes into the educational system, and then you can see also that desire to wanting to do good academically, to wanting to better your position. I think a lot of INFJ are very academically inclined, and I think if you feel that way and if you've read this book, you'll probably agree. I honestly highly recommend Jane Eyre, and I wish I knew before how well that Charlotte writes her female heroines, because now I want to pick up all of her other books because I really could identify with the main character. And the next book I want to recommend is a YA young adult book, and it's the Divergent series by Veronica Roth, and specifically Divergent, the first book. I don't have the book because again it's in that pile, I'm not gonna go for it, but I'll insert an image here. I'm sure you've heard of it. There's a movie franchise too, but I highly recommend reading the book. Divergent was really that one book where a lot of people hated on, but honestly, in the height of dystopia, it was one of my favorite books. I started reading that book and I did not stop until I finished it. There was something that Beatrice, the way she was, the way the factions were created, that I could highly relate to, because the thing is, like, you have these, I think it was 4 or 5 factions. You have Amity, you have Dauntless, you have Erudite, Abnegation, and then you have the Factionless, I believe, and then you have Divergent, right? That's the one that, like, oh my god, you are so special, so crazy. And that's the one that's like, you are so special and you're a threat to society because you don't think like society type of thing. And the Divergents, they are more than one thing, right? They have more than one skill set. And obviously you can say the argument where most people are like that, right? We're not a one-dimensional human being with one skill set or whatever. But I feel like when you feel so out there, when you feel like you are so spread out and you have like 10 million interests, it's very hard to like narrow yourself down. It's very hard to put yourself in a box, and you want to, but every time you put yourself in a box, you want to get out of that box, right? So I feel like people that are an INFJ and that feel like that will really highly appreciate stories like Divergent. And honestly, I cannot accept any hate for Divergent, and especially the first book. I love it so much. I will always recommend it, and it really unlocked something in me, and it really made me feel seen and heard. So highly recommend that. And the last book I want to recommend is Quiet by Suzanne Cain, and it's the power of introverts in a world that can't stop talking. And like I said, INFJ, the advocate, are very introverted. You know, we can be extroverted, but we're very introverted. So I really think that this is a really great book. It really shows that there is power in being silent and being introspective and, you know, just being yourself. You know, you don't have to change to fit into a world that's very loud and very, you know, talking all the time just for the sake of talking. Personally, for me, I hate small talk. I understand it, kind of, not really. I'm also neurodivergent, so it doesn't really help, but I totally like feel like if you're INFJ, you will have a kinship to this book. And I just started it, so I didn't finish it. Obviously, I can't really recommend it highly either, but so far from what I read, I really love it. I want to read you a passage that I shared today on my Instagram that made me really want to pick up this book immediately, and maybe you'll relate to it, maybe not, you'll let me know, but I'll share you that passage. So here's a passage. It says, "Stay true to your own nature. If you like to do things in a slow and steady way, don't let others make you feel as if you have to race. If you enjoy depth, don't force yourself to seek breadth. If you prefer single tasking to multitasking, stick to your guns. Being relatively unmoved by rewards gives you the incalculable power to go your own way," by Suzanne Cain. So yeah, I definitely think that you can relate to that if you're an INFJ. I definitely do believe that it's a great book for us INFJ folks. So yeah, these were the books that I recommended, plus the books that are not pictured. I definitely have more recommendations. I definitely can make a second part of this video, but I wanted to keep it short because I don't want it to feel like I'm excluding all the other MBTI types. But I did definitely want to make an INFJ video to, you know, to spotlight myself and be like, hey, I'm an INFJ creator, so if you really like books and if you really like introspection, this is the channel to be on. Let me know what are some of your favorite INFJ books, some of your favorite INFJ characters, movies, shows, etc. I would love to know and explore more and read more or watch more INFJ characters, or just books that have that feeling or that appeal to you as an INFJ person. So having said that, I might actually film a day in the life as an INFJ person, but I might do it on my second channel, so make sure to follow my second channel. That's more like mental health, self-help, lifestyle, and this channel is more, you know, the reading side, writing side, and creative side, right? So that's another part of me splitting myself everywhere because that's just how I roll. As always, if you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. All books and all links are going to be down below, and I'm going to see you on the next book video. Bye!